Welcome back to the journey through John. We read John 4 and we read about Jesus and the woman of Samaria. And wow, I could probably sit for hours and hours and think about this woman. And she is just tenacious. She is feisty. She's also full of, I think, shame, full of a pretty big story. And when I think about this social distancing that is occurring right now because of this virus that we're forced to do, this concept of social distancing is nothing new. In fact, we choose to socially distance ourselves all the time. Maybe you're in a relationship where there was conflict and you're no longer in that relationship, and you're in the grocery store and you spot that person and you go the other way. That's a form of social distancing. And then we have social distancing that was occurring in this passage that was because of gender, because of racial divides, because of spiritual differences. You see the Samaritans, Jesus went to the area of Samaria, but typically the Jewish people did not befriend the Samaritans, and the Samaritans did not befriend the Jewish people. The Samaritans were looked upon as half-breeds. They believed in the God of the Jewish people, but they also believed in other gods. And so they were viewed very less than. It was mutual, but there was social distancing there. And then there's another form of social distancing in this story because this woman at the well was getting her water at noon. Typically, water is gathered in the morning from things that I've read. So this is reading behind the story, that it would be my thought that she gathered water at noon because quite possibly her story, which is eventually revealed, is that shame-filled story. And so to be with the other women at the well was possibly embarrassing. Maybe self-protection is why she was there at noon. But so she gathered water at the well at noon. And in this story, she's there gathering water, and then Jesus arrives and he asks her for water. And they begin this whole conversation, and he starts to break these barriers, this racial barrier, this gender barrier, this spiritual barrier, and he gives her value. They talk about water, asks her for water, and then he says, if you knew who you were talking to, you would ask me to give you water, because the water I would give you would be living water. That's a connection from the first miracle that we saw, where Jesus was the perfect bridegroom and provided the best and the wine that was most satisfying. And so this living water is another way of saying, I'm enough for you. And then they go in to talk, she starts to talk about the possible Messiah coming, and then he says, go call your husband. And then she says, I don't have a husband. And he says, you're right, you don't have, you're right in saying I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. The woman says to him, what you've said is true. This is another one of those stories where Jesus sees people. He sees us in our true humanity, and he's still not afraid to sit with us and talk water with us, talk life with us. And so this woman runs off. The disciples come back and they marvel. They're marveling the fact that he's talking with this woman. They were amazed that Jesus would break these barriers. But they don't ask him, why are you talking with her? And so the woman left her water jar, her whole purpose for being there at the well, and went away into the town and said to the people, "Come, see a man who told me all I ever did. Can this be the Christ?" They went out of the town and were coming to him. So here's this woman, she distanced herself from her people, and all of a sudden she runs to the town and says, "He sees me, he knows me. Come see this one. If he knows everything about me, you better come see him too." The disciples were like, "You need to eat, Jesus." And Jesus says, "Oh no, I don't need to eat." And I love this verse in 34. It is my food to do the will of him who sent me and to accomplish his work. Jesus is saying, this is what feeds me, is seeing people come to know me as their Messiah, as their Savior. I think it's a beautiful thing that this is embedded once again in this conflict, in this shame, this being fully known by God. And it's his food is to see us to come in full relationship with him. It goes down to 39. It says, many Samaritans from the town believed in him because of this woman's testimony. How that flips. She's the shamed one. Now she's the one who is the gateway to Christ. He told me all I ever did. So the Samaritans came to him. They asked him to stay with them, and he stayed there for 2 days. Many more believed because of his word. They said to the woman, "It's no longer because of what you said that we believe, for we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this indeed is the Savior of the world." And so it's my prayer for you today. Have you heard for yourself this truth, that the Savior of the world is here to meet you right where you are, not where you ought to be, and to save you? Don't be afraid to be fully seen by him. We're going to go tomorrow and discuss John 4, 46 through 54. And I'm thankful for you. I'm praying for you this day.